The Addams Family Nail Art Tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish.
Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to be showing you how I did this Addams Family nail art as part of my classic television series and the Addams Family and the Munsters. I love that style, I love the makeup, I love just the whole vibe of those shows. They make me feel very, I don't know, that's kind of like my alter ego, so I love that. And in today's video I'm not actually going to be painting any of the characters. With the Munsters design I did a while ago, I actually did Herman and Lily. For this one I decided to go with the logo as well as a black and white checkered nail, and then from the Addams Family the musical there's this amazing little portrait, and so I had to recreate that. So I hope you like this. It's a little bit on the easier side compared to the Munsters where I actually did the portraits. So I hope you like that, and don't forget to click subscribe to my future videos as well.
So begin by painting all of your nails solid white. So now on my thumbnail, I'm going to start painting the frame of the portrait. And so I know in the intro I kind of contradicted myself when I said I wasn't doing any portraits and I'm doing this little portrait of all of them. What I meant is I'm not doing like a face, a detailed face portrait. That's what I meant. So just start by creating an oval on your nail that's as large as it can possibly be. Mind you, I am leaving a little bit of a gap by my cuticle to add the hanger for the portrait, or for the frame, I suppose. Depending on how long your nail is, my thumbnail, actually all my nails are surprisingly long right now, so I had that space. If you don't, you could just skip that portion of it. And if you have any little mix-ups and incidents like I did, as you can see, that one part got too thick and I just kind of left it there, I'm going to fix that up in just a moment with some white paint. Just cover that up and make that part go away. So then there's a little hanger on the top there, and as you can see, I didn't fill in the frame solid. It almost looks like it's wooden or chrome, or like it's got that texture to it if you don't fill it in solid and you just do it with these little scribbly lines like that. And it's easier because you're not taking all the time to make the paint perfect, and it goes quick, and so that's how I did that. So now I'm going to begin outlining everyone's head, and I have the photo next to me and I am constantly going back and forth and looking at where each head is compared to the one next to it, as well as compared to where it is in the frame. So I'm really paying attention. I'm pretty much doing the outlines of faces and hair, and not much of anything else. There's a couple circumstances where you do have to add little bits of clothes just to make sure that the next head goes in the correct location. And if any of them get messed up and you're looking at them and it's just like, no, that was not right at all, again, with the white paint, you can go ahead and fix that up. And so like I said, though, I did keep looking back at my reference photo to make sure that everything was in the proper location. And as you can see here, I'm going to look at Wednesday's head and I'm going to go, no, that wasn't right. So I added it again, and I'll just cover that first one up with some white paint. Like I said, it's really easy to do if your nails are a solid white background. White acrylic paint, it may not match 110%, but it's going to match really, really, really close, if not perfectly. And so it doesn't really matter if you fix things up with a little bit of white paint, because nobody's ever going to see that. So then after I have all of the heads in location, I'm going to go through and add bits of clothing. So any clothing details that I need to add at this point. So just little bits here and there, and continue adding your details until you have everything in place. And if you do things progressively like this, I wouldn't try to do each person. I wouldn't start with Pugsley and complete his entire portrait and then move on to the next one, just in case suddenly you realize he's in the wrong location. It would be a lot more work wasted if you had finished him instead of just doing the outline of his head and a little bit of the stripes on his shirt and then going back through. So now that I have clothes done, outlines of heads done, all of that, I'm going to start doing the little facial features. And this is definitely the part that gets a little bit more difficult. This is the hardest part of this design by far. And if you're looking at this and you're thinking, nope, this is looking a little too difficult, you can skip the portrait and you can just do more of those checkers, or you can write the Addams Family again, or just paint this nail black, or something along those lines, and skip this part, because this is the nail that makes this design a little bit more advanced. And once again, if any of these things go askew, as you can see, Morticia's eyeballs kind of got stuck together, I will fix that in a moment with some white paint, because you can do that. And you don't have to get it perfect on the first try. In fact, I don't really think you need to get it perfect at all, ever, because it's art. It's not supposed to be perfect. But if you have problems, you can always fix them, which is the beautiful thing about using acrylic paint, because you can keep adding layers and layers and fixing things up, and it's never going to add all of that much thickness on the nail. It's not going to add any thickness that's noticeable. So doing that is a-okay. So I'm just going to keep adding little details and touching things up and make sure that everything looks okay. And I didn't do too much actual detail with white paint at the end. If I'm trying to think of what, I think all that I added at the end with white paint was Morticia's hands. Otherwise, I tried to do everything by leaving the white spaces white and just adding the black details. But just a little bit here and there, you do have to touch up with that white. So then, yep, just adding, I added Pugsley's ear, a couple little buttons on Wednesday's dress, and then Morticia's fingers that show up. So now my index nail, I'm going to be doing the beginning of the Addams Family logo. So I'm going to start with the ad, and so it's going to be, the A is going to be the major eye drawing point on this nail. It's really, the letters, the font is very Victorian and filigree and swooping and elegant. So for the A, just start out by making a fairly basic A shape and then go and start adding all the decorative pieces onto it. So if you just start out with it fairly plain and then you keep adding things, it's going to get to that point. I did try to match it as close as I could to the font that is the original font, but if you do something similar, even if it isn't exactly how it was for the show, it's not really going to make that much difference. So then after you have your A in place, go through and add your 2 Ds. And when you're doing this, try to keep this in the upper section of the nail. That's going to keep each of the nails straight across for the logo, more so than if it was in the middle. And then after I have the D's in there, right above the D's, really, really small, you're going to write the. And so it always cracks me up when I say that, is really, really quite small. And most of it is the T, just like how the majority of this nail is kind of focused on the A. The T is the focus of the word the. So the T, then the H, and lastly, I know this is shocking and completely blindsiding you, you want to add the E. And then for your middle nail, you're going to paint the rest of Addams, so that's going to be AMS on the top section of your nail. So that's, I'm going to start with the M because the M is the middle of those 3 letters, and because none of these really has a focal point, you can keep them centered. So you're going to start with the center letter to do that. So the A goes to the right or the left. I always think of it like I'm looking at this upside down, so then it's on the right. And then the S on the other side. So when I'm doing these letters, just like how I started with the A and kept it very simple, and then I started adding all the little details to it, it's the same thing with the rest of the letters. Paint them thin and petite looking, and then go ahead and thicken them up and add all of the little details to them. That way, if they're not quite right to begin with, the lines aren't so thick and heavy that it's going to make it so much more difficult to touch them up. If they're nice and thin to start with, you can more easily sort of persuade them into position. So then you're going to begin the family portion of the Addams family, starting with the F, and just like how the A was the focal point, the F is the focal point on this nail. So I'm going to start, and that's pretty much towards the center, and after I did this, I decided I could have pushed it off to the side a little bit more and not given it as much space, but oh well. It is what it is. So same thing, I kept it fairly simple in the beginning and then just kept adding details to it, and then I'm going to be painting the A next to it. So as you can see, there's a little bit of extra space on the side there. It's not too bad, but it could have been over just a little bit and left less room for the A. So then on the ring nail, I'm going to be finishing this off by writing Millie for the end of family. And because, like I said, since these don't have a focal point, you are going to want to keep them centered all the way across. And since there's 4 letters this time, the I and the L are going to share a middle, so I painted those together. And then I'm going to add the M before the I, just like that. And with this font, the last line of the M kind of curls down and back, so make sure that you add that. And so then on the other end of it, you're going to want to add the Y, and the Y is definitely very swooping and swirling on this nail, so you want to make sure that you leave enough room below these other letters on the nail to have the tail of the Y. So then just add that like so, and then continue that tail of the Y down. It kind of curls up and it touches the end of the M. And same thing, start out thin and then go through and add the thickness to it. And then at the end of the Y, after that end of the tail of the M, there's going to be a couple more of those little Victorian looking, almost leaf type patterns. It's very foliagey. That's not a word. You get what I'm saying. And then just a little curl like that. And then on your pinky nail, create that checkered pattern. And I wanted it to look like it's coming out at an angle, but if you wanted it to be checkers like you would normally think of, then you would just want to straighten all these lines out. But since I want it to look like it's at an angle, you're going to want to make them all these lines at a diagonal. So you do diagonals going one direction and then diagonals going the other direction. So instead of creating a whole bunch of little squares, you're actually creating a whole bunch of little diamond shapes. Just like that. So then add the last line, and once you have all of those lines in there, go ahead and start filling in every other square with, or every other diamond with black paint. So it's not every other diamond in vertical lines, it's every other diamond on the diagonal. So as you can see, it almost looks like you're doing every single one going down, like this whole center vertical line is going to be filled in. But if you look at them in the diagonal rows, then they are every other one, if that makes sense. This is something that I've messed up in the past because I've been thinking of it incorrectly and thinking it in vertical and horizontal lines and not in the diagonals, and then it doesn't turn out properly, which you're then looking at it, and if you're me, you're thinking, I did this every other, this should be working out fine, what happened? And it takes a while. Eventually you go, oh geez, how did I make that mistake again? But it happens. And then after you have all of your nails done, you can go ahead and apply a layer of top coat and you are all set. I hope you like this design, and don't forget to check out the description box for links to the past videos that go in this little classic television show series. I know that there's the Flintstones, as I mentioned, the Munsters, I Love Lucy, a whole bunch of them, so check that out, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!